You're listening to the Scottish Football Forums podcast, the home of Scottish football banter.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Forums podcast. This is a novelty. I don't think I've actually hosted in 6 years, by my reckoning. But here I am back again for a fan special. A few years ago we did one with Erin, and it was always the intention to revisit that. So it's taken us about 5 years to do that, but here we are. So I have been joined tonight by one of our regulars, Charlie. Charlie, how you doing?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. We're underway. That's a good start. Hit the right buttons. Remember how to do this. So yeah, we're gonna chat through Charlie's history of football, as you will. So as a brief introduction, Charlie, who are you and who do you support? For those that don't know.
I'm Charlie and I'm a Hibs fan. Been a Hibs fan all my life, but started going to Easter Road back in 2002, so 24 years ago was my first game. So I realised that some people on the podcast weren't even born when I went to my first game, which makes me feel old. So I don't know about any of the rest of them, but
About time it was more than just me.
No, it's class. I love football, love chatting about football. Hence why I'm on this podcast. But it's great.
So what's your earliest memories of football then, before you went?
I think the first game I ever watched was when Hibs beat Hearts 6-2. I remember getting a VHS going back in the day for my birthday one year. That game was 2000, so I think it must have been 2000, the Christmas on my birthday. My birthday's in December, and then I just remember watching the game, having no real idea what was going on or anything, but I remember just seeing like just the different colour strips and all these kind of things, and then I guess the Hibs won, so I made my mind up that was probably the team I was going to start supporting. All my family, on my dad's side anyway, are Hibs fans, so it was pretty natural. But that's the earliest thing I can remember. Is just seeing Mix's bald head scoring the hat trick against. I think Anthony Amy was in goal for Hearts that night. But I just seeing that, and then obviously wanting to learn more and more about it, and I guess just pestering my dad to take me to Easter Road, because that was one of the things, like seeing Hibs win 6-2 against Hearts. I thought that was it. We were going to do that every week. And then obviously it's not the case, but that's probably my earliest memory, is just watching us put 6 away against them.
So what was your first game?
It was against Kilmarnock, October 2002. I've actually got the programme. I got the programme the other year there for my first game. It was just after Joe Baker had died. And I remember they had a minute's silence for Joe Baker. And I was saying to my dad, "What's happening? Why is nobody talking?" I'm like 5 or 6 at this point. And we won. I'm sure we won 2-0 that day. But that was in the old East Stand at Easter Road, the old cowshed as it was called. But that was my first game. I can't remember anything about the game other than it was just after Joe Baker died. But that was me hooked straight after.
And then go back to the 6-2 game. Recently you're able to interview the one and only Mixu Pat Linen for this podcast. If anybody hasn't listened, definitely go back and listen to that. It's a really good interview. So how was that?
It's surreal, to be honest with you. I remember just sitting, like, listening to his answers, and like him talking about that team, like Soze, Latape. That's before I started going, but like even just hearing what he thought, and then I guess like to then like I remember watching him as the manager as well, so like even just hear about that. But it's just, that was surreal for me. Like, I've interviewed Hibs players before for another podcast, but like to actually chat to somebody who played in that, the first game I ever watched, and like just hearing his story of that day was really cool, and I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Right. I mean, you mentioned like obviously Mixie was one of the managers, but another man who played in that team is Frank Sosie. We've recently had Wilfred Nancy have his very short period. It was a lot shorter than the 69 days of Frank Sosie. Where were you with Frank Sosie? Do you think he was given enough time, or do you think it was just cut losses and move on?
Probably was the right decision to get rid of him when we did. I think the good thing is that it's no heart tarnished his legacy with the club. Like, I remember 3 years ago, maybe he came back to deliver the match ball at a game, and the place went mental when he came out. Like that, I guess that, like, I don't think it really matters what happened if he was a flop or not, which he was. But like, everyone still loves him at the club, and everyone still thinks the world of him. But it probably was the right decision to not give him much longer than they did. They probably feared for relegation or what have you, but I think the good thing is he can still come back to Easter Road and everyone's like, oh, there's Frank back. It's not like, oh, why is he here?
I hate to see these legendary players tarnish their good name in some way. So yeah, so he was followed up by Bobby Williamson. So what's your memory of Bobby Williamson? I don't know what my mind's when he's on.
Bobby was the manager my first game, so that's sort of where I remember. But I just remember like listening to other podcasts of players who played in that team just saying like how he was a really nice guy, but it wasn't really a great man manager. And I remember like his famous line, "If you want entertainment, go to the cinema," like that. It's not exactly what you want to hear for your manager. But I mean, to be fair, he did set the tone for what was to come after that. I think obviously it was like the younger players were starting to come through because we had no other option. And obviously that then led into the golden generation coming through. And one of the best Hibs teams I've ever seen. I would probably argue the best Hibs team I've ever seen after that. So I'm not sure Bobby's got the best legacy at Hibs, but I think there's a lot we can thank him for obviously the players he brought through and ultimately what it meant for Hibs, because we made some amount of money on those players that came through. Probably less than we should have, but it was because of him that they all came through, I guess.
Yeah, was he in charge in the 2003-04 campaign? Am I right in saying that?
And then Tony Mowbray came in 04. So it was, Tony Mowbray got them at the peak of the coming through.
Do you see that League Cup final as a missed opportunity?
Aye, I think every Hibs fan does. That was actually my first time at Hampden, so I remember we had hospitality at Easter Road, left on the bus, get through to Glasgow and what have you, and walking up the steps to Hampden, thinking this stadium's huge. Like I never, obviously it's the biggest stadium football wise in the country, but just to like walk through, you see like. I think we had something like 45,000 fans at the game that day. Like, it was crazy. And obviously, Livingston, yeah, you know what happened there. But it was a massive. I think that team probably deserved the trophy. Obviously, like the run to the final was beat Montrose 9-0. And then I think it was I don't know if we played a game before we played Celtic, then Rangers, but, we beat Montrose. Everyone probably expected that. And then obviously to beat Celtic, then beat Rangers on penalties, you're thinking the cup's only going one place. Back along the M8, well, it did go back along the M8, but it took a short diversion to Livingston on the way back through. But no, it was such a weird thing when you see all these Hibs fans, you think, oh, class, we'll win this. And then obviously Livingston had another idea that day, but it was surreal seeing all those green and white tops, flags, and all that kind of stuff. It just would have been nice to cap that off with a trophy that day.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that team and it's like Gary Caldwell and Scott Brown and Gary O'Connor and Denton Ireland and Stephen Whittaker's on the bench along with Tam McManus. So it was a very talented team. And I think Livingston had just got into administration like the month before or something as well. So all the woes were on their side.
It's crazy to even look at that Livy team, like the players they had as well. Like like at the time they were household names, but the only one I could think that played for them that day was Jamie McAllister. But other than that, I couldn't tell you any of the Livy team for that day.
You got David Fernandez, you got Derek Lilly, Stuart Lovell was the captain, Marvin Andrews was at the back as well. So along with Oscar Rubio. So yeah, it was a decent Livingston team, despite the woes that they had. So yeah, so there was nothing for Bobby Robinson, unfortunately. As you said, mentioned earlier, you got Tony Mowbray next. So
Aye.
what were your thoughts on Mowbray's football?
That was incredible. That my youngest brother's 15, and he was like saying, "Oh, how good was David Gray's season last season?" I was like, "It's nothing compared to Mowbray's." And obviously they fit well. It is when you look at the unbeaten run, but Mowbray's football was electric. Like every week you went to the game thinking we're going to win today. It didn't matter who we're playing. Celtic, Rangers, the Hearts, Aberdeen came. I thought we had a chance to beat them. It was just amazing. Like the reliance on young players and just I don't know. It said something about it that the team had no fear. Like they were just happy to play anyone. And obviously we finished third that season, the first season in Mowbray anyway. But just incredible. Like I remember that season. I think it was that season, or maybe the season after. Like Hearts rocked up at Easter Road, like nobody had beat them, and then we scudded them 2-0, and that was that was that was it was two going on 5 or 6 that day. Like we battered them, but it's just how football should be played. Like none of this passing round the back for no reason. It was just every time you got the ball, you wanted to attack, and I think that's why everyone of a certain age remembers Tony Mowbray's time at Easter Road very fondly, because it was just attack. Like there was no having the ball for having the ball's sake. It was just let's use the ball and let's go and take it to teams. But obviously Mowbray's downfall was his cup runs. We got beat 4-0 off Hearts in a semi. I think we went out early in the League Cup every time he was there. So that was probably the only thing I guess would have been nicer if Mowbray had went deeper in cups.
Yeah, I feel vindicated now because I remember when Mowbray signed at Celtic, I thought it was going to be a really good one because of his time at Hibs.
Aye.
Because my memories of being at Hibs were thumping Rangers 3-0 at Ibrox
Yep.
more than
Yep.
once.
Aye, twice.
And then the other one that I remember was towards the end of the 04-05 season in the league. Everybody would talk about how Celtic blew it at Fir Park, but for me it was a game immediately after Ibrox when Hibs came to Celtic Park.
That's right.
Dominated the game. Celtic managed to get himself back in. Mowbray made a couple of substitutions and Hibs won around a 3-1 win. That was a massive game.
That was an incredible game. I wasn't there. I think it was on the telly or whatever. I remember watching the highlights of it. But just even like watching how like that we're going to Celtic Park. We didn't win there very often. The last time we won at Celtic Park was 2010. Obviously that's after that game, but just like it's like we won there every time. Like there was no like I remember Scott Brown running through, and I think he chipped Marshall for the second or third goal. But like that was it. Like they just showed no fear. I think, and that's sort of what I guess I miss about football. Teams actually happy to attack rather than just sit back and hope that a team you break their press or whatever. But no, it was a great team that.
Yeah, so Mowbray went off to the West Brom in 2006, and you got in John Collins, so another former player.
Aye, and then he obviously started winning the League Cup.
Yep.
That was amazing. I think one of his first games was when we beat Hearts in the quarter, 1-0, but I think we had like 89% possession that night. Like we absolutely and like they had one shot or something the whole game. And obviously we only won 1-0. Craig Gordon obviously done what Craig Gordon does. Kept it at 1-0, but that was amazing. That night I think it's the most comfortable I've ever seen Hibs in a derby, and we only won 1-0. Which shows you but it was just, Collins has got the passing, moving and tempo, but that was it. That summed it up. Like we were just running teams off the park, and then obviously we beat St Johnstone in the semi after extra time, which at that when it went 1-1, I thought, oh, this could be us out here, because St Johnstone were getting the momentum, and then obviously then won 3-1 in extra time, and then the final beating Kelly 5-1. Nobody seen that coming. I, I thought we would win the cup, but I thought maybe 2 or 3-1. I didn't see 5-1. And I think that was sort of it. Just capped off what Bobby Williamson and then Mowbray had started. Like that was probably what we needed. We needed a cup, because that sort of solidified sort of what had happened. We weren't in great shakes in the league, other than that one season under Mowbray. To get a cup was amazing. And then we obviously got to the semi of the Scottish Cup that year and got beat off Dunfermline, so it was slapped back to reality. And a cup replay in the semi, I remember them. That was funny.
I've been doing research and older things when it goes to like second replays and all
I
sorts of
know.
stuff. It's just insane what you used to do.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm a fan of that. It was like I remember being at the semi-final against Dunfermline, the first leg anyway, when it went 0-0, and that was it. You just went home. It's like, well, are we not going to play to find out who wins? And then obviously we lost 1-0 with a last-minute penalty in the replay. So I think that would have been like that. That would have been nice to get to the final of both cups that year, because I think that was sort of hard to say you deserve it, because you didn't deserve it if you get beat. But I think that team, especially that season, deserved a wee bit more than. And I can't remember where we finished in the league that year, but I think it wasn't as high as it should have been. And I think we had a few dodgy results as the season progressed. But to win a cup that year was something special. And the first cup I seen in my, I've only seen two, and the first one was always really special.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that was the kind of last hurrah, that team as well, because that's when they started selling all the big names.
That was
Hibs made a packet off of that, but
Thompson had already left.
He went first, yeah, you're right.
He went in the January, and then Brown went in the summer. Whittaker went the January after. So I think it was the January after anyway for Whittaker, but that was it. Like it was starting to, and then Fletcher left a couple of years after that. O'Connor, Riordan. So it was like, or maybe they'd already left by that point, but it was sort of like, this is it. The generation that came through are starting to move on, and it was like right, we're starting again. We'll see how we go.
I think Mixu suffered a bit for that.
Aye, I would say so. I don't. The money went into the training centre, which I agree we probably needed one, because we were renting somewhere at that point, so we probably needed a place of our own. But Mixu's working with two managers, prior players, and it's no, you're not getting time to build anything with players that have been brought in to play a certain style. Like John Collins is fast flowing football, and Mixu's a bit more composed in his approach. It was something he said when he was on the podcast. It's like he wishes he could have done a wee bit more with Hibs, and I agree. I think Mixu gave Paul Hanlon his debut, so that obviously like he done that. So that's something that Hanlon was in the team until 2 seasons back. So he done he brought through some good players, but I think Mixu probably was the victim of the success of previous managers, that there was just no money for him to spend when he was having to bring in players who were subpar at best. They weren't the best.
Yeah, I mean, John Hughes came in next. He seemed to be a bit different. He seemed to get the players in that he needed to get.
I think the difference between Yogi and Mixu was Yogi had contacts in Scotland already, so he knew who to bring in, whereas Mixu, some of the players he brought in were decent. I think it just was they weren't the right fit for the team. I'm trying to think who he brought in. Like Clayton Donaldson came in, Maurice came in, Dennis Rosa and Steve Pino, and players like that were decent, but I think probably weren't going to cut it. And like Makalambe was signed just round the start of that season when Collins was still there. So it was like you had, on paper, you had really decent players. Like McAlambay had been at Chelsea and, all this kind of thing. But it just fell apart. And then Yogi came in and he just brought in some decent players. I think like Liam Miller came in. Who else? And about then, like Patrick Craig. I'm trying to think who else. But it was like all players who probably played in Scotland a wee bit more. And that's probably what we were lacking. Lacking a bit league experience that sort of worked in Yogi's favour, because we ended up getting European football like Colin Nish and Stokes and Riordan were the front three, and that was, that's a decent front three if I've ever seen one at Easter Road. They scored some amount of goals that year to push us to get Europe. So that, I think Yogi sort of done really well for the time he was at Hibs. And sort of when he left, we thought he'd set us up to succeed, but it sort of went downhill really quickly.
Yeah, you start going through kind of managers at this point. I mean, you've got Colin Calderwood was there for about a year, and then Pat Fenlon comes in, and but I guess Pat Fenlon at least saves you from relegation.
Aye. He also masterminded our worst European result, and we'll not talk about that cup final. And then when he left, you're thinking, well, you're right. Like, he saved us for relegation twice, I think. When he left, we were 11th, and you thought, right, he had to go, I think. I wanted him out after that Celtic Cup final, just because, like, he'd done what he'd come in to do. And then obviously I think it would have been a good place for him to finish. Like, you've just lost 2 cup finals in a row. Obviously, the first one, well, like, that is what it is. You lose to your rivals. Like, it is, like, obviously the score wasn't ideal, but the Celtic one, up until Celtic scored, we were in the game. So it was when Hooper scored the first one, you're thinking, right, okay. And then the second one came quickly after, and you're like, right, the game's done. Just see it out. And then obviously it finished 3-0. But if I was in charge, I would have probably said, like, you've taken us as far as you can. You've done really well with the squad you've got both seasons. So, but then obviously we kept until the October, and the place just went toxic. His last game was obviously that defeat to Hearts in the League Cup, where we again battered them and lost 1-0. And that was it. Like, I remember I left when the game finished, and I got home, and there's pictures online of fans at the main office trying to get people to come out and talk to them, and it's not nice. So it probably had to happen at that point. You're probably thinking, right, this is a good time to sort of move on, try and find somebody else that'll hopefully get us up the table, and we'll see where it goes from there.
But it went the other way, unfortunately. Eddie Butcher.
Aye, that was, to be honest, I thought when Butcher came in, I thought, brilliant, that's the manager we've needed. He'd done really well at Inverness and Motherwell and wherever he'd been. He was a cracking player back in the day as well. So we're thinking, oh, perfect. And then I remember he started off really well, and then like beat Ross County in the cup. And then I just remember there was an interview where he said, I've told half the team they're not going to be here next year. And I'm thinking, oh no. And then the January window came, and we brought in some absolute duds. And you're thinking, right, we need to get to the summer. And then we just didn't win a game for a while. Or maybe we'd won a handful, but I think it was the Kelly game was the last game. I think that was the second or third last game of the season. And I remember getting beat 1-0, and that sort of solidified, right, we're in the playoffs. We thought, brilliant, like, Hearts are down, we'll get to laugh at them when we stay up. And then obviously we won the first leg 2-0, and you think, perfect, another year up, but we'll probably go down next year. And then obviously the second leg of the playoffs happened, and it was just sort of summed up the state of the club, that you're 2-0 up with like 30 seconds to go, you're still winning on aggregate, and you end up losing on penalties. It just sort of, it was a sorry state for the club. And it was like I know we'd been down to 98 and whatever, but it sort of was, couple of years in the making. Like the year before that, we finished 11th, which obviously there was no playoffs that year, but it was just a case of, right, we know what's coming, so let's actually be excited about it, sort of, because we've got Hearts and Rangers in the league. So we've got some teams that we can compete against. And then obviously we finished second that year, but it was just when Cummins' penalty got saved, it was like, oh, it's a long road back.
I just think that kind of played a part in it, because what you mentioned, I think 8 time it went down, because Hibs basically bounced back up that season. But going down at the same time that Hearts were there, and they were rebuilding through their administration, as well as Rangers working their way up the leagues, and that was their first season in the second tier. So was it just a sort of bad luck that you ended up in the same championship as those two as well?
Probably was, aye. Like I think had we went down the season after, we probably would have been all right. I think the issue was that we were going to get battered every game if we'd stayed up. Like the squad we had was really poor. I just remember, like, you've got players who were either about to retire or should never have been at Hibs in the first place, like Michael Nelson and Owen Tudor-Jones retired the day after we got relegated. And it's a very forgettable Hibs team. Like Paul Hanlon and Stevenson were still in it. we're still in it for years after that. But other than that, it's a very forgettable team for the reasons of, like, players were just awful. And like, it was a good thing. It feels weird saying this, but it was actually a really good thing we went down, because it gave us that chance to reset and sort of look at, right, well, Butcher's no staying. half the team's leaving on Monday. So it did give us a chance to sort of look at, well, who do we bring in, both manager and players, to sort of get us out of the dogfight of the championship.
And it became one of the most exciting leagues in the country. I mean, the Championship always is an exciting league, but just obviously with all the big names in there at the same time.
Oh, no, it was great.
But Hibs did pretty well in there as well. I mean, considering that Rangers were expected to scoosh it, as they had done the previous 2 seasons, Hearts were rebuilding, so nobody was quite sure what they were going to do. But it turned out they were the team that scooshed it. And if I remember, Hibs finished second, didn't they?
We finished second that season. It was such an entertaining league that year. I think the good thing was it helped me tick off a few grounds that I hadn't done yet, so that was good. Maybe we should go down again. Maybe some more grounds I could tick off. But no, it was a really exciting league. I remember one of the first games, like we beat Dumbarton 5-3. I'm thinking, oh, this is perfect. Like there's going to be goals every week. And then that season, Hearts beat Cowdenbeath 10-0, and it was just like, it was mental. Like teams were just, every team in the league was capable of beating the other teams. Even like Rangers got beat off. We beat them a few times. Hearts beat them a few times. I think Falkirk beat them a couple of times that year as well. And like it was just really exciting. Like I loved that season in the Championship, the first one especially.
So yeah, Alan Stubbs was in for that season, hung on to him for that second season, and it obviously goes on to be one of the most memorable in Hibs history. I mean, it starts off, there is a cup final that happens before the big game.
Oh, that was another one where we had 32,000 that day at Hampden against Ross County, and you're thinking, perfect, we'll win this one, and then we didn't. And then you're thinking, oh no. And then we then lose in the playoffs to Falkirk, and you're thinking, oh, this season's a write-off. And then I think I'd sort of said, regardless of what happens, I want Stubbs out, because we finished third in a 2-horse race. We'd lost a cup final, and then we win the cup final. You know, we win the big one. We've never won it in anyone in, well, a few people's lifetimes anyway. Few people were still alive for the first one, but it was just like crazy. Like we could have won the double. We probably should have won the double, because we had the better squad than Ross County on paper. But obviously they had a really good game that day. I remember that was like the season before we'd lost in the semi-final to Falkirk when they played Inverness in that cup final.
Yeah.
And I remember walking out of Hampden saying to my mate, like, we'll never win the Scottish Cup. Like I've been at this stage so many times I'll never see Hibs win it. And obviously we won it the year after, so all hope was restored. But I just remember walking out of Hampden after that Ross County game, thinking this is getting. I just didn't want to go to Hampden again. Like, and obviously the next time, not the next time because we beat Dundee United in the semi, but the time after that we then lift the cup, and it sort of saved the season from being a really poor season to, all right, we can forgive you for not getting up or getting to the final of the playoff because you've gone and delivered the best day of Hibs fans' lives.
So yeah, let's talk about that. So you obviously take an early lead through Anthony Stokes. Rangers managed to turn it around to make it 2-1, but Stokes gets an equaliser fairly late on, and it looks like we're going extra time. You've already scored for one corner, that second equaliser.
Aye.
Liam Henderson's gone over there again, and he puts in the great ball. Talk us through it.
I just remember, like, it was like it went in slow motion. Like, I can still remember it, like, him going over to the corner, and I say to my wee brother, like, we're going to score. And I just remember it leaving his boot, like, watching it, seeing it connect with David Gray's head, and it felt like it took about 10 minutes for it to hit the net, when in actual fact it's like 2 seconds. And I just remember, like, I didn't know what to do. Like, my glasses ended up 4 rows in front of me, so I had to go and find them. And then I just remember getting back up and just looking, like, not even celebrating, just looking out across the Hibs end, just like watching people, like, just a sea of people going rows in front of them, and it was just amazing. And like, you're then thinking, we've still got 3 minutes. I think, my heart can't take another 3 minutes of this, but it was just
those 3 minutes last.
Oh man, far too long. But I just remember when the whistle went, like, thinking, this isn't real. Like, I just remember, like, hugging anyone and everyone that was in arm's reach. Like, it was just like seeing grown men cry, and just like, it was special. And then obviously the people going on the pitch and whatever. I never went on the pitch. Probably my one regret of that weekend was not going on the pitch. I think just like, it's just mental, like something you never thought you'd ever see, and I've seen it. So like, I didn't care if we never win it again. Like, it feels weird saying this, but I don't think the next time we win it will be as good. Which is weird to think. Like, of course it'll be as good. We'll win the Scottish Cup, but like that, just the way it happened, like to be 2-1 down with 2 minutes to go, or however many it was, and then just like to win it was just mental. And then obviously them not getting to parade it in front of the Hibs fans because all the police had lined the pitch and stuff. It was like, perfect. And then obviously you're walking, like I was walking out of Hampden back to my bus, and I'm just bumping into people that I never knew were at the game. And it's just like, that was the best bit about the day. Like, obviously from when David Gray scored up until we got home, was just, you're seeing people you've not seen for a while, and it was just class.
I know there's mixed opinions on this on the fact they didn't get to parade the trophy around the fans, but I always thought it was something a bit special about the fact that they had to stay in the presentation area while the fans were singing Sunshine on Leith.
That was, I'll tell you something, that was special. Like, I love that song anyway, but just like, it's always nice when we get to sing it after beating one of the bigger teams in the league. But just like, I remember the first time we sung it, obviously after we beat Kelly, was special, but that one was just like goosebumps the whole time. But it was like, it was nice, like even watching the videos back nearly, it's 10 years this year actually, like seeing the players sing along, and just, you could tell what it meant to them as well. Like, it was funny, I was watching a couple of interviews after it the other day, and just like, even like John McGinn saying, we must have Hibsed it. And like, they knew like that was something that was getting said. Like the week prior, we just Hibsed it against Falkirk. So it was almost like the players wanted to put it right. And that was special as well. Like, seeing like Alan Stubbs, everyone knows what he went through health-wise, and like seeing how much it meant to him, and just everyone connected to the club was just amazing.
Many times you watched it back in the last 10 years.
Too many to count now, I think. It's always nice. I always make a point of watching at least the highlights on the day of the cup, just to relive it, I guess.
Right. So yeah, I mean, third time asking, back up. Neil Lennon was in charge then.
Nah, we drew our way to the league that year. That was, I think we had the most draws to win a league. Right, it was like something like 11 or 12. But again, Lennon played some exciting football. I think it was sort of like it was boom or bust, really. We had to get up that year. Like, Rangers and Hearts were away. Dundee United came down, so them and Falkirk were probably our nearest challengers, so we had to get up. And it was a relief when we did get up, because and St Mirren actually were down that year as well. It was just a relief, like we're back where we should be. But to be honest, I can't really remember much about that season, but other than we beat Hearts in the Scottish Cup, and we almost got to the final again of the Scottish Cup. Again, we played Aberdeen, and Marciano nearly scored right at the death to make it 3-3 and take it to extra time. But they're the only two bits I can really remember about that season, because it was sort of just let's just get there, let's just get the league title and get back up, and then you can actually think about building again, because it's hard to, or I can imagine it's hard to build when you're in the Championship for your third year, when you probably were thinking maybe 2 at max. But it would have been tough, but it was nice to get up when we did.
And Lennon just carried it on. He kind of got you Europe that following season, finishing fourth.
I should have been second.
Yeah.
I think had we won at Tynecastle, we would have finished second. But we obviously lost at Tynecastle and they needed to beat Rangers by 6 goals, and we're 3-0 up within 12 minutes. And we thought, this is it.
Crazy game.
And I can't remember who it was, but somebody missed a gilt-edged chance to put us 4-0 up.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, what a game of football that was. But that, from January to the end of the season, was just blistering. Like, we beat everyone that came in front of us. Like, we beat Hearts 2-0. We beat Celtic 2-1. We beat Kelly 5-3. Like, it was just very entertaining. And obviously, like, it was tapped off with a 5-5 at the end of the season. I remember I left at 5-3 because I thought, this is done. Can't be bothered. And then I got on the bus home and it was 5-5. I was like, I wish I'd stayed. But that summed up that season. Like we were class going forward. We were a bit shaky at the back, but you knew there was goals in every game. Like, I didn't imagine we had many 0-0s that season.
Probably not, yeah. But then Lennon eventually leaves, and we're back on the manager merry-go-round again. Paul Heckingbottom was there briefly. Jack Ross comes in after that. Yeah.
Steadied the ship a bit, Jack Ross, and there's been about 7 or 8 after that. But no, it was Hecky was a disaster. I remember him saying, it was just after Celtic had beat us in the semi of the League Cup 5-2, I think it was. No, Hibs fans are bored of coming to Hampden anyway. It's not a big deal. I'm like, right, well, that's you away. And then Jack Ross came in, steadied the ship, and then COVID happened. And then we had a great season the season after, in the league anyway, not in the cups, but obviously finished. Well, to be fair,
it was a Scottish Cup final. You came up against the powerhouse that was St Johnstone.
Back in the COVID days, that was. I know St Johnstone put us out of both cups that year.
Yeah.
But that was it. Like, we finished third that year, and obviously we were never going to finish higher than that because obviously Rangers won the league, but Celtic were like 9 or 10 points in front of us. As bad as they were that season, the gap was just too big, and we were very inconsistent until it mattered. And then obviously fans came back, which was crazy. Like, having watched a season in the house to then go back, I think that was bizarre. But that was it. Like, it was, it felt like my first game all over again. Like, just remembering how big the football stadiums are. And my first game back actually was a friendly against Raith Rovers. Like, I remember, and I was like, I've no been to Starks Park, I'll tick that off. But then it was like, wait a minute, I'm actually going to the football. Like that was the most bizarre thing. And then obviously crowds came back, and it's been like that ever since, thankfully.
Hopefully it stays that way because
I hope
it's
so.
football without fans is nothing, as you say.
Aye,
And
it was
yeah,
awful.
I kind of feel sorry for St Johnstone fans because 2/3 of the major trophies that they've won have been in front of no fans whatsoever.
And the other one was at Celtic Park. It's not like they've
Yeah,
won one at Hampden that they've
yeah,
been there for.
they've never seen Victory at Hampden. So yeah, I mean, even I was at the St Johnstone Dundee United final. Yeah, it's been a bit of a sort of topsy-turvy time since then as well. There's still been many managers. Do you think Jack Ross should have got that cup final instead of putting Maloney in charge? The League Cup
Aye,
final that I won.
aye. That was the least he deserved. He got us to it. He should have, like, the atmosphere at Livingston the night that his last game was brutal. I wasn't there, but a couple of my mates were there, and they said it was very, very on edge the whole night. And obviously, we finished the game with 9 men and we missed a penalty, so it was very, like, folk were angry. So it had, like, I'm not saying it had to happen when it did, but I think it was the right time. But I also think, like, what would they have done if Jack Ross had won the cup? Like, they'd have been stuck
That's true.
in between a rock and a hard place. But I think the least he deserved was to at least lead the team out because he'd got us there. Like, they hammered Rangers in that semi-final.
Yeah.
And I feel sorry for him because it's the least he deserved. But I mean, if he'd won maybe another game or two on the run-up, he probably would have got it. But it was probably the right time for him to leave. And obviously, he's not done anything managerial-wise since. Like that, obviously that 3 week stint at United was embarrassing enough. But
I
I
mean, it
feel
did beat
sorry.
us at Altmar. How'd that end?
Aye, I know. Aye,
Yeah, Maloney wasn't there long. Lee Johnson came in and was a bit of a roller coaster at times as well.
aye, it was bad. And then Monty was there too long, in my opinion. And now here we are with David Gray.
Yeah. And again, it's the same as the Frank Sosia thing. It's like you don't want a hero to ruin
Aye,
his.
I think I've been, as most people know and that listen to the podcast or are part of the podcast, I've been very vocal and my how much I'm not. I love David Gray, I always will, but I think it's a bit like Jack Ross. I feel like it's almost at the end, and this season's not been great, like for how inconsistent we've been or whatever. But I don't know if we can finish fourth, then I would say it's been a decent season. But we've went out the cups far too early again, and that's been David Gray's big thing. Like last year in the League Cup, we lost to Kelty, which gave us a tie against Celtic. This year we go out of the League Cup to Rangers, which that was Russell Martin's only win, I think, as Rangers boss. And then,
Oh,
well, against a team in this league anyway. And then we go out the Scottish Cup to Dunfermline. So it's no like that's probably the biggest sticking point, I think. As I love David Gray, and last season was superb, like the second half anyway. But I think like we need to get better in the cups, and I think he will be here next year. I think, but if the cup performances didn't improve, I would be asking serious questions because it is like you need to be getting to latter stages of the cup. You look at Dunfermline are in the quarterfinals. Obviously, they put us out, but like Falkirk are in the quarters this year. Motherwell or Aberdeen, like, and obviously Celtic are playing Rangers. It's a great year for someone that's knowing the old firm to win the cup. So it is a frustrating one that we went out so early because it was a perfect opportunity to get to Hampden.
definitely. Do you think the football that I'm supporting at the moment is kind of merits your place? Because I know obviously people have talked about what Motherwell are doing this season, what
Aye,
Aberdeen are doing, sorry, what Falkirk are doing this season, and then you've got like Hearts, it's maybe not as attractive, but they are top of the league currently.
yep.
That's probably most galling for a Hibs fan to be saying.
Aye, I'm trying to pretend it doesn't exist. I think, to be honest, I think we're probably fifth on merit this year. I don't think we're better than that just now. To be honest, there's probably an argument we should be sixth because Falkirk have played really good football. But it's a results-driven business at the end of the day. We're there because we should be, I don't know actually how many points we are in front of Falkirk. I think it's tight, but like I think the split's going to be really interesting this year. Like, I'm not a big lover of the split. I think it's outdated and I think it should go. But I think this year's probably the most exciting one because you didn't know who's going to win the league at this stage. I hope it's one of the Glasgow two for my own sake. But I think the teams, Motherwell, Hibs, and Falkirk, if it stays like that, I've got a real chance to decide where the league goes. And for our sake, I hope we lie down to the other two and up our game against Hearts. But there's a reason David Gray's the manager and I'm not. But I think like it is a really exciting end to the season, and there's no guarantee that Falkirk make top six either. I think I know they're sort of like 7 or 8 points clear just now, but there's still a lot of games to be played until they get to that stage. So it will be exciting to see who makes up the top six. So the top four, they'll stay where they are, and then it's fifth and sixth will be. I'm hoping it's us. I would imagine it will be us now, and then we'll see who else makes it. But no, it's been an exciting league this year. First one in a while, I can say I've actually enjoyed just watching games that didn't involve my own team.
Do you think fourth is achievable for Hibs then? Or is it too far beyond you?
I think it is achievable, but I think we need to win our game against Motherwell in a few weeks to have a real chance. I think if they beat us, then it's done. I think we'll take fifth or sixth and we'll move on. I would love to see it's achievable. I would love to see we'll finish third, but I don't think we will now because Celtic, Rangers and Hearts are so far in front. And even if the league goes how I think it'll go, Hearts will finish third. But they'll then be 16 points, 17 points in front of us. So It's just a case of my real hope for the season is that we have a strong finish and someone from Glasgow wins the league, because then it'll feel like a decent season. If it doesn't go like that, then it's going to be an awful end to an awful season, and we should just cancel football altogether. But wow, we've still got a few games to go.
I'm sure even the St Mirren fans will be glad to say they won a trophy and Hearts didn't.
Well, that's it.
They're the ones that have had the strangest season for me, because that's probably Hearts' bogey team as well this season.
I know. And they're normally our bogey team, but we've beat them twice and we drew with them. So it's a funny old season. But it's St Mirren are. That's right, they've won a trophy. And selfishly, I'd like a team, like a smaller team in the league, to win the other one. Like, it would be nice to be like, all right, Celtic or Rangers win the league, whatever. But like St Mirren won the League Cup and Motherwell or Falkirk or someone like that won the Scottish Cup. That would be a real story to tell for the league. Because, everyone's like, oh, the league's boring, but it's not boring. Like, if you take out Celtic and Rangers, it's no boring. Like, last season was incredible. Like, the turnaround from Hibs and Dundee United to finish third and fourth. Mm-hmm. Aberdeen finished fifth but won the Scottish Cup. Like, that was box office. And then, obviously, this year you've had Russell Martin, Wilfred Nancy, Stephen Presley defying all doubters. You've had goodness knows what else, but like, it's just been a really exciting league for a change.
Yeah, I mean, like we said earlier, the Championship tends to be the exciting league, but I think the Premiership's given it a run for its money this year.
It's been good. No, it's been good. Looking forward to it finishing, though. I think it's a bit stressful just now.
Can't wait for it. Yeah. There is one other trophy we haven't talked about, and because you're not only just interested in the men's game, you're also interested in the women's game. And Hibs last season were the SWPL champions.
Aye, which is crazy. That I never thought that would ever happen. Like, obviously, I started watching women's football properly back 2021, I think it was. My first women's game was the game at Easter Road where they broke the record. They played Hearts. I can't even think it was 3-0 to Hibs. But since then, I really enjoy it. It's obviously very different. And I think most people know it's different. If you didn't know it's different, then you probably should work out that it's different. Because it is really enjoyable. But it was the year of the underdogs winning stuff. If you look at, like, take out Celtic winning the league up here, like, nobody's seen Falkirk winning the league. nobody's seen Aberdeen win the Scottish Cup, and then if you look, nobody's seen Hibs women win the SWPL. So that was mental, and it was like just the way they won it as well, like winning at Ibrox like that. I think that sort of summed up where women's football's at. Like a team's won it at an actual stadium.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have cared if Rangers had won it that last year. Like it just shows you, like, yes, the women's game, it's obviously not the men's game. Like the scoreline and stuff, we could do a podcast in itself on that. What's wrong with the women's game? More in a positive light, of course, but just the fact that teams are winning leagues at Ibrox or winning the cup at Hampden, it's good. Like, and that's the way it should be. It's nice. It's good for the players as well. Like, imagine we'd won the league at Meadowbank. Like, nobody would have cared. Like, they would have, obviously, but to win it would have been nicer at Easter Road, of course, but to win it at Ibrox is lovely. Like, and just to see them celebrate on the pitch, and it probably, like, obviously you see what happened down south when England won the whatever it is, the Euros or whatever. Like the crowds down south were mental, and like I think that's probably helped up here. Like seeing that actually you can play at a stadium. Like you didn't have to play at Meadowbank, where it's got 499 seats or whatever. Like you can see them play at Easter Road or Tynecastle or wherever else they play.
Do you think there's something we're not doing up here that they're doing in England, or is it just the fact that the Lionesses have had such great success that's why they're getting all the crowds?
I think if the women's national team was sort of getting deeper in tournaments, obviously we've not been in a tournament in a while. Hopefully this time round, but I think that probably is why it's way a bit bigger down south, is that people are actually all right. Okay, they win things. Like obviously the England men's team have been really close a couple of times to winning stuff, and I'm glad they've not won something yet. I think that might change soon enough though. But I think it is just a case of like people need to just buy into it as well. I think that's probably it. Like people haven't fully bought into it yet up here, and I think they're starting to. Like the record attendance up here, something like 16,000 at Celtic Park, so that's decent. Like that's more than at St Mirren Park, for example, or Rugby Park, or stuff like that. So it's showing you there's an appetite for it. I think it just needs they probably need to have a deep thought about how is it giving more free tickets away, or is it giving cheap tickets or whatever. But I think in time we might see it reach, I wouldn't say anywhere near as what it is down south, but I think we might see 25, 30,000 for a cup final, or games at Hampden being more than what they are now, because they're no well attended just now.
We seem to have had that kind of 10,000 peak at
Yeah.
Hampden and not been able to get past it since. Even when we played England in the Nations League a few years ago, it was still round about that. So yeah, there's something not quite ticking yet, and I've not been able to put my finger on it. I thought it was maybe Lionesses' successes compared. You're not getting anywhere.
And obviously they've tried moving the games like Easter Road, Dens Park.
Yeah.
I think they went to, was it Tannadice or Den as well? So obviously there is an appetite to move the games, and there's another one coming to Easter Road. But I think the big issue is this: like it's a Friday night, or like the timings aren't ideal, and Easter Road for anyone coming through from Glasgow or whatever, it's like going to Hampden for us. Like it's hard to get to or get out of, especially like Edinburgh's a nightmare as it is for traffic and stuff. But no, I think there's probably more they can do in terms of making it more accessible, like kick-off times. Definitely across the piece, men and women international games. Like a Monday night, it's not ideal. Like it's just not great.
Yeah, I know I've found a few times that what the Celtic women are playing the same time as the Celtic men, because they're both playing on the Sunday. That's kind of making things a bit awkward as well. So there's a lot we can do about that, given the UEFA spread of games. And if you don't qualify for the Champions League, you're playing a Thursday night kind of thing.
Aye.
Which then bumps your game to a Sunday.
That's right.
This week.
This weekend, aye.
So yeah, I mean, we've talked about the women's national side. You're also a fan of the men's national side, maybe not as bigger fan of some others on this podcast, but certainly you've had your ups and downs with Steve Clark, shall we say?
Aye, that's putting it nicely. No, I think it's part and parcel of being a football fan. Like everyone's got, you have disagreements, whatever. But I think like this is it. Like it's nice. Like it's the first World Cup I've ever seen us at, and Steve Clark got us there. So he sort of all my negativity about him can sort of be put in the back pocket until we lose our first game in the World Cup groups, and then it's back on show.
Don't say that. Yeah, if we lose to Haiti, we're just done.
Aye, that'll be me done with the national team if that happens. But thankfully, I don't think it will.
I hope you're right. So yeah. Okay, let's go to some of the I'm going to say listeners' questions, but it's not really listeners, it's just other folk in the podcast. So John's asked, what's your favourite Hibs home and away kits?
Oh man, that's a tough one. The home one's easy. The home one's the 6-2 top. Just the bottle green, the white sleeves, the white collar. It's just a beautiful top. I've got it in the cupboard upstairs. I paid £80 for it the other year there, which I thought was reasonable for a top that old. But I got offered something like 250 quid for it in the summer there, and I turned it down because it's never ever leaving. The away one, that's a hard one. I'd probably say round about when I first started going we had a yellow one. The badge was in the middle, Carlsberg. It was just really nice. I'm a sucker for a yellow away top. I don't know what it is about it, but that's my favourite. That or purple is my favourite Hibs away top. So I'll go with that yellow one.
I'm a big fan of yellow away kits as well, as a Celtic fan. So I think the
Aye.
best ones tend to be yellow as
Aye.
well. So I tend to agree with that one. Grant has asked if you had to interview one current Hibs player, who would it be?
Oof. Rocky, I would
I knew that
say.
was going to be the answer. Had to be Rocky, didn't it?
I see if you'd asked me that last year, I'd have said Dwight Gale. But I think Rocky, because of how up and down his time at Hibs has been, and like how much everyone loves him now. So I would say him. But that was probably an obvious one.
Vinny says, which Hearts player, past or present, would you love to have play for Hibs?
So if you didn't know, Gary Naismith's my dad's second cousin. I call him uncle. So I'll say him because he's the only one that I can sort of tolerate. I'd say earlier Rudy Scatchell as a joke, but I wouldn't have him in my team. Gary Naismith. But then he's probably warming the bench.
All right, one from Josh. What's your dream football trip?
With Hibs or just in general?
Just in general, he hasn't specified. So
I'd love to do the Boca Juniors derby. Is it River Plate?
oh, River Plate, Boca Juniors, yeah. Oh,
I've seen clips of that on YouTube, and it would be incredible, I think, to do that. However, closer to home, I'd love to do a Birmingham Aston Villa game because I think that would be pretty tasty as well. Like I think both of them are pretty hate fueled, so I'd love to do that. The Boca Juniors one especially, that would be class. Like just seeing the stadium like jumping would be amazing.
nice. I think that seems to be a bucket list of many people.
Aye.
Another one from Josh. Rudy Scatchell, Ian Black, Ryan Stevenson, fuck one, marry one, kill one.
Eh, I'm killing all three of them, to be honest with you. None of them are. I'm
Knew
not
that was
taking
gonna
any. I'm not taking any of them home to my nana.
Ricky asks, if you were challenged to cook a meal that didn't involve the oven, what would you make?
Oh, Ricky's done me there. Eh, say a good steak. You don't need to use the oven for that. I'd say steak, mashed potato, because you don't need the oven for that, and peppercorn sauce. I don't think you need much more than that, really. We'll go with that.
I do like
Aye.
a nice steak.
Aye.
Aye, that's good. Back to John. What's your favourite sport outside of football?
Wrestling. has been for, again, 20 years now, so I am no, I'll happily get called any name under the sun for liking wrestling, but yeah, it's really good. I love
We
it.
talking WWE here?
Aye.
Yes. It's been a bit of a staple in this podcast for the last 15 years, so we're keeping that
Aye.
one going. John also says, what was the biggest disappointment from our away day? The piss and rain or Dr. Grant Campbell shaving his beard?
Hey, I would say Grant rocking up with no beard. There was obviously chat it was going to happen, but I think obviously I'd never met Grant until that day, so I fully expected the beard, and then in walks this clean shaven Grant Campbell, and that was something that day. That was funny.
And for the listeners that don't know, Grant had a bet to shave his beard if Aberdeen won the Scottish Cup.
Aye, and
So it's
that
all Casper Schmeichel's fault.
aye, Hibs never got group stages, and I'm blaming him fully.
See, that's a knock-on effect of these things. You never get group stages and Grant had to shave his beard. Grant also says, what would you recommend a pub choice close to Easter Road?
Ooh, that's a tough question, that. I would say if you're wanting decent atmosphere before the game, I would say the Persevere down the bottom of Easter Road. They do good food in there and a decent pint, so I would say there. However, if you're an away fan, you're sort of spoiled for choice because there's no much. But if you're looking for a decent pint before a game at Easter Road, I would go to the Persevere.
There we go, recommended. Josh says, if you had to pick a non-league team, i.e. tier 6 or lower, who would it be?
Leaf Athletic. Does that count?
There's a blast for the past as well. It used to be a proper Scottish Football League.
I don't know what tier they're in, but I'll say them.
I don't even know if they still exist.
I think they play like very, very lower league now. But I'll go them because I didn't know many other ones.
All right. Last of the listeners' questions. What are you referencing when you say you're 8 inches uncut? Is to me your beard only looks 2 to 3 inches. That's Ricky again.
Aye, that's definitely my beard. It was about that, and then the barber, I said, go and trim the beard, and he took a number 6 guard all over it. So yeah, that was a painful conversation with my fiance at the time, now my wife. So that obviously wasn't that bad. But it was my beard got butchered 2 months before our wedding. So there we are. That wasn't. I know it was bad.
I'm sure it was still a great day anyway.
It was. It's funny actually. We played Hearts that day and we got beat. So that could have ruined it, but I never. But that was typical me fashion that Hibs would play Hearts the day I get married.
All right. Josh did have one other question which said one rule about the game you would change, which was one of my questions as well. Is if you had to change anything about football, what would it be?
I would change the split. I think we had that chat yesterday. I would get rid of the split, or maybe the day before. I can't remember what day it was. I think it's funny. I think when you look at the teams that finish 7th and 8th, they very often, and it's not their fault, but they finish on more points than the team that finished 6th. So I would get rid of it.
Would you go up or down, more or less teams?
I'd go more. I don't know how many I would have. Maybe 2 leagues of 18. I think the good thing with that, I feel like if you're sort of in the middle, like 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, you're not fearing relegation or anything. But it gives everyone a chance to play the young lads. Like, how many young players have we seen recently, especially move abroad? Josh Doig, Glennon Miller, Lewis Ferguson, Kieran Bowie. There's loads. There's probably more I'm missing. but they've went for mega bucks because they've had a chance. And that lead doesn't happen very often. So I would try and have a homegrown quota as well as getting rid of the split. So I'll condense that into one. That we get rid of the split, but we're making the league bigger. You've got to play at least X number of young players or have them in the squad every week.
That sounds like the perfect reason to do it, especially for the Scottish national team.
Of course.
All right, nearly up. So we'll hit the quick fire questions. Favourite tipple?
Well, I didn't drink anymore, so it used to be a Guinness. Now it's a Guinness Zero, so we'll say Guinness in any form.
I'm not a Guinness fan, but I've heard very good things about Guinness Zero.
It's very, very nice.
Yeah. What would your death row meal be?
Are we going one meal here or the full 3 courses?
Let's go 3-course meal.
Right, we'll start with my nana's lentil soup to start because it's the best I've ever had.
Nobody ever makes food better than your nana. Yep.
No, I would go steak, chips and peppercorn sauce with mushrooms for the main, and I would go Oreo cheesecake for finish it off before they put the lethal injection in my neck.
The next one on my list is favourite hometown pubs, but you might have answered that one already unless there's anything else that's not near Easter Road.
There's one just near the train station called Piper's Rest, which is a Scottish pub, and they do very, very good food. But also they've got like live music at the weekends. I think actually most nights they've got live music and really good food in there. I would recommend that, and their alcohol selection's really good as well. If you're looking for a good pub in Edinburgh, I would recommend that.
That sounds good. I think I know it actually. I've been in it once.
It's good. One of my mates used to work in there, so used to get discount, which is always good in the modern climate.
Right, the most important question ever asked on this podcast: what's your favourite pie?
Steak and black pudding for Arbroath.
Oh, that does sound good.
It is. That was the best bit about that game. Actually, no, it wasn't. Rocky Bashiri kicked the ball into the North Sea that day.
That's no hard at Arbroath, to be fair.
But no, the pies there are class. I will say the pie sports kebab ones are good as well. I get them a little now and again. But it has to be a steak and black pudding one. They're my favourite.
Might have said this already. Favourite away ground?
Motherwell, which is a rogue one. But I've never seen us lose there, so I'll stick with that. And it's just, I don't know. I will say I'm not a fan of them putting everyone in the upstairs, but
why do they do that?
I think there's chat that there's a lot of broken seats that need replaced for every club that's been there or whatever. But no, it is great. Like I just like you're so close to the pitch and what have you. So Motherwell, aye.
I know when I went to Fir Park, I used to like getting the other end. We got it for a short period of time. That was just not the big stand, but the other end where you're really right up close to the goalkeeper.
Aye, no, it's good. I've actually not been there in a few years, so I'll maybe need to rectify that at some point.
All right, and then the last one, and this is the trickiest one as always is, the best club 11 for your lifetime.
Right, I wrote this down because I was thinking about this earlier because I've changed it 2 or 3 times up until I'm going to lock this in. So in goals, I'm going Ophir Marciano. I think, however, in a few years' time, that might change to Raphael Salinger because I think he's a very good goalie. But just now, based on sample size, I'll go Marciano. Just a very, very good goalie. And it was mental that he ended up at us because he then ended up at Feyenoord and playing in the Conference League final a couple of years after or something. So that was crazy. Right back, David Gray.
Obviously.
Aye. I will give context.
Did he get the captain's armband?
Yes, aye, yes. I'll give context that this is from 2002 on when I started going. So Soze and Laapi and Mixon that never made it, which is a shame because I would have loved to have seen them. So Rob Jones and Paul Hanlon are the 2 centre halves. Rob Jones lifted the CIS Cup and Paul Hanlon played X number of games for him. So he had to be in. David Murphy's my left back. I know Lewis Stevenson won both cups, but David Murphy was a class above. He was very, very good. So I'm a midfield three. I'm going 4-3-3 here. So Guillaume Bouzalan in midfield, the first.
Oh, nice.
What a player. Just all round amazing. Amazing guy as well. I've met him a couple of times. Really, really nice. John McGinn, obvious, best, my favourite Hibs player ever. Favourite ever. And Kevin Thompson is the other centre mid. I think Kevin Thompson was better than Scott Brown at the time.
So do I. And I get pillars for that because of the way they signed.
And I think, I can't mind what we got for Thompson, but it should have been more than Brown. It wasn't, but it should have been. Thompson was amazing when he broke through. Really, really good. So was Scott Brown, but Thompson had everything.
I think Thompson suffered from injuries later in his career.
Aye,
that's why Brown ended up being the more successful of the two.
And Thompson ended up having 3 spells at Hibs, so it was just part of me doesn't like how he acted when he left, but in terms of pulling a Hibs jersey on, he was second to none. In the front three, left wing, Derek Riordan, I can't think of any words to say about Riordan that haven't already been said. Just amazing. My right wing is Martin Boyle, because I think he's broke Riordan's record of goals for Hibs in the modern era, which ultimately puts him in the team because he hit 100 in the summer and he was only 4 behind Riordan. He's probably there now. And Stephen Fletcher's my striker because, again, what a talent. And you see that with the career he had. Playing for Marseille, playing in the Premier League. We'll no talk about playing for Dundee United, but obviously finished at Wrexham, which I thought was a bit random. But he probably made a hefty amount of money playing for the Marvel lads. So it was a very tough one because there's a few players that probably could have got on the team, but that's my.
Who's on your bench then? Who never quite made it?
Salinger's the goalie, because I would say probably the second best goalie I've ever seen. I actually wrote this down as well, so let me get that up. So my bench was Salinger, Lewis Stevenson, because he won everything there is to win. That is not a league. Scott Brown, just for had he been better than Thompson, he would have got in. Ivan Sproul, because
he scored a lot at Ibrox. That's what I remember.
He scored a hat-trick at Ibrox. He got sent off in a derby for stamping on someone's back. That's maybe not why he got in, but he was just. I've listened to a few interviews of him, and he just speaks so highly of his time at Hibs, and he loved us. So I'll go him. And the last one's probably a controversial figure now, anyway. But at the time, he was brilliant. Was Lee Griffiths? The only man in my lifetime, anyway, to almost hit 30 goals a season for Hibs when we finished 11th. And that just tells you how good he was. Obviously, he had a cracking career after that at Wolves and obviously at Celtic, and then obviously it went downhill. We'll not talk about that. But and obviously his goals against England and stuff. But obviously his off-field issues held him back a bit. But what a talent he was. Lucky enough to see all of the players play for Hibs. Not the most gifted players in the world, but certainly have left a good memory on a good impression on me.
No more so than the memory of David Gray's goal, obviously.
Well, that's and even Anthony Stokes never got anywhere near that team.
That's true, yeah, and he could do that game.
And he could have. It's just it's hard when it's hard. We've not exactly been blessed with great players over the years, so to whittle down the ones that are decent was hard. So there we have it. That's my team.
Do you know another name that never made it? Steve Whittaker.
Whittaker could have. Saul Bamba could have. Trying to think who else. Colin Nish could have, actually, with his goals. Gary O'Connor. I'll tell you who was never making it was Paul Hartley, because he went to the dark side. But no, it's nice to think about, like, sort of the players you've seen over the years, and It's obviously John McGinn's the best I've ever seen. So he was the first name on the sheet.
Definitely. No, that's a very good team. I'd like to have seen them play together. Well, probably not against Celtic, but yeah, I'd have enjoyed it anyway. Few of them did make it at Celtic, right enough.
It's true.
Well,
It's true.
I always thought Ireland was completely wasted with us.
Yeah.
I don't know why he was signed because Strachan never used him. Bizarre. But that was a shame. So yeah, but yeah, that's been absolutely great. Thanks for coming on and doing this with us, Charlie. And
Of course.
hopefully this will be the first of a good few of these because I've really enjoyed this myself.
It was good. Always nice to chat about football and especially Hibs.
Definitely. All right. And that's thanks to everybody for listening. And as always, happy football.